It doesn't matter how many points they go down. The Philadelphia Eagles refuse to die. We're breaking down a crazy week 3 on today's edition of Locked On NFL.
The new Locked On NFL. The madman Tyler Rowland is your double shot of NFL espresso with the Locked On local experts on every major story. Get ready. Rowland is revving up. The new Locked On NFL starts now. Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Football fans, welcome into the Locked On NFL podcast, bringing you a double dose of the NFL's biggest stories with help from our local experts that know your favorite teams like no one else. I am your host, the madman, Tyler Rowland, joined today as I am every Monday by Locked On NFL expert, the legacy, Louis DiBiase. On today's show, we are going to break down the Sunday night football game that was ugly, but it was a Chiefs win and they're finally on the board. We got to talk about a cheesehead meltdown as the Green Bay Packers absolutely blow it against the Browns, but we will start with two teams pulling off big wins in the last moment, and that obviously begins with the Philadelphia Eagles. They pull off an insane comeback victory over the Rams. They're down 26-9, correct, Louis? And then end up winning 33-26 after a blocked field goal attempt at the end of the game by Jordan Davis, which the big man runs back to the house. This Eagles team just will not die.
No, they really won't, and it's unbelievable. They've won now 19 of their last 20 games. The only game they lost was when Jalen Hurts was knocked out last year against Washington. To do it in the style they did today, too, I've never seen a more Jekyll and Hyde performance from this football team's offense in a decade. I mean, the passing game looked like it was completely broken in the first half, -1 in the passing yard category, and then they had over 200 yards through the air, 3 passing touchdowns in the second half. Jalen Hurts led that comeback, but Jordan Davis finished it with that blocked field goal, and what a huge win against a Rams team that it's going to be competing with them for the number 1 seed in the NFC. So this was a have-to-have-it kind of game, and Jalen Hurts saved his best for last, as he always does. One of the most clutch quarterbacks that I've ever seen.
Absolutely. You can't deny that at any point in time, that Jalen Hurts is absolutely clutch. And I found it incredibly fascinating to watch him on the sideline during the blocked kick and the run back. He's just so stoic, metronome, never moving, and not only, Jalen Hurts, but to see A.J. Brown step up in this game, 109 yards and a touchdown, really physical catches that you've come to expect from A.J. Brown. Devontae Smith got back into the mix with 8 catches for 60 yards. Like, the Eagles looked like the Eagles that we know in that second half. They kind of did the Undertaker sit-up at the end of the day, 26 points in the second half to come back. Just an absolutely fantastic win on the day. And at this point, you're right. You look at the Rams, they just cannot get the job done. They had opportunity after opportunity, but they took field goal after field goal. And this is a game that with two teams in the NFC that are probably going to have good records, this is a massive tiebreaker type game for later in the season.
And I think this game is so important for the Eagles, win or lose. Even if Jordan Davis does not find a way to block that field goal and the Rams win this was, I think, the most important game of the season for the Eagles because they had to learn that they could not continue to play football the way they were. They were playing scared on offense. Last year, they obviously leaned on the run game. They didn't turn the ball over. Their defense carried them to a championship. But there's a difference between playing smart and controlled on offense versus playing scared. And I'm glad you mentioned A.J. Brown because they were not getting him the football the first 2.5 games of this season, and that was hurting them. The Saquon Barkley rushing attack had under 3 yards per carry today, and a lot of that was because of the inept passing game of the last 2.5 weeks. So this was such a massive performance because I think they needed to get their aggressive mentality back and know that, they're never going to be the best passing offense in football, but it had to be much better, and it was in that second half. So this was the wake-up call that they desperately needed if they want to beat this Rams team again, probably when they see them in January.
Yeah, and if they want to repeat again, it's not going to go exactly the same as it was before. You're going to have to evolve a little bit. You're going to have to be a little bit different. And them coming out and showing that they're capable was a monster win for, again, what I think is the best team in football. Now, we're staying in the NFC because talking about people who don't play scared, Baker Mayfield never plays scared. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are never scared, and they do it again. I think I saw the only team in the Super Bowl era to win their first 3 games with scores in the final minute. You just cannot keep this Bucs team down, and my guy James Yarko from Locked On Bucs talked about that.
it wasn't pretty, but the Bucs found a way to win yet again. This cardiac Bucs team, who was up double digits in the fourth quarter, allow 2 touchdown drives by the Jets, and then a Chase McLaughlin field goal is blocked in return for a touchdown with less than 2 minutes left to put the Jets up 27-26. But Baker Mayfield, without Mike Evans on the field, is able to orchestrate yet another game-winning drive, a 36-yard field goal as time expired by Illinois legend Chase McLaughlin, who looks to have gotten things right after a bad couple of first games to start the season. The Bucs are now 3-0 for the first time since 2005, getting ready to square off against the 3-0 Philadelphia Eagles, who won off of a blocked field goal against the Rams. They didn't make it easy. They definitely didn't make it less stressful than the first 2 weeks, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are now 3-0 on the season.
Now, Louis, you know I'm as high on the Bucs as you could possibly be. I had them getting the number 1 seed in the NFC. I took Baker Mayfield for my MVP pick. And so far through 3 weeks, that doesn't look bad. But I have to tell you, they pulled off this game, but they tried to lose it with the field goal blocks and everything going on and a punt return and this and that. They tried to give it away. And then you look at their schedule going forward, and it does get a little spooky. They got to play the Eagles next week. Then they go on the road against the Seattle Seahawks team. They had a great performance on Sunday against the lowly New Orleans Saints. Then they got to play the San Francisco 49ers after that. Then they got to play the Lions. Now, it gets a little bit easier down the end, despite a game against the Bills and a game against the Rams. But I think it's going to be tough for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win games down the stretch with the injuries they have on the offensive line now. Mike Evans leaves the game with a hamstring issue, and he did not look happy. It was a great comeback win for the Bucs, but they only had to come back at the end because they made so many mistakes at the end of the game as well, and now they got a murderer's row of a schedule going forward. So high on the Bucs, 3-0 kind of confirms it, but I am a bit worried about the next month here.
Yeah, I agree with you, but I think what this game did confirm is your Baker Mayfield MVP take is pretty spot on. Even if he doesn't win the award, I've been kind of slow to fully admit how good Baker Mayfield has been over the last couple of years. Like, what tier is he in the NFL at quarterback? But he's an elite franchise quarterback. I mean, 233 yards through the air and a touchdown, 44 rushing yards on the ground, too. Like, he has led them to 3 straight really close wins. You're right. Like, that roster is banged up, but I think Baker Mayfield has proved that while they're trying to get healthy, he can carry them to wins. In a division that's not very good, we saw how bad Atlanta was today. That playoff prediction for me is not looking great. But for that, I think in the meantime, Baker can carry them. And I think Tampa, if they can stay above water and be a top 3 seed in the NFC, they're going to be dangerous once January rolls around. I think I was pretty wrong about that team.
Well, even if they do struggle in these next couple of weeks to a month like I'm talking about, this 3-0 start and being able to pull out these games at the very end has probably given them a little bit of a cushion to where they can make it back up at the end of the year where they do have some easier games. But you never know which games are going to be easy and which aren't, because we thought that the Green Bay Packers had an easy game this week, and they surely did not. The upset of the weekend happened in Cleveland. Do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. Look, you and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football back, Prize Picks is the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. All you have to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. It's so simple. Again, just 2 to 6 players, more or less, like a projection like Josh Allen. You can do more or less than 270 passing yards. Saquon Barkley, more or less than 1 rushing touchdown. And every week they have max discounts. Like this week, they had Patrick Mahomes, more or less, a half a passing yard. So they're just giving it to you there, folks. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. All right, Louie, let's continue today's recap of Week 3 in the NFL. We talked about the major Eagles comeback. We talked about the Bucs comeback over the New York Jets. But now we got to get into the biggest upset of the week. The Green Bay Packers, who are leading the game the entire time against the Cleveland Browns. Literally, it is 10-0 going into the fourth quarter. The Packers aren't playing great, but like I expected, the Browns would not be able to get anything going on offense, but then the fourth quarter happened, and the Packers' old habits crept back up on them. And my guy, Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers, reminds you of what those are.
It is a 13-10 disappointment. It is embarrassing, and it is on Matt LaFleur. This team was not ready to play. It's the second week in a row. There were too many penalties. It was sloppy, disjointed. They were way too scared of Myles Garrett, and they played scared. They played scared from the jump. Also, the special teams. What is going on with the special teams again? Rich Bisaccia stealing money for the millionth consecutive season for the Green Bay Packers. It seems like because every year it's, Rich Bisaccia, he's going to help. It's going to be fixed. It's going to be better. And it's not. You get Brandon McManus for these moments, and then you can't block it up. The Packers should have had the game-winning field goal here. Instead, the Browns get the game-winning field goal here. And that's the part that also should have never happened. The Packers get the kick blocked, and then they let the Browns mosey down the field. This is a defense that had locked up the Browns all day. They play soft. They let the Browns come right down. The pass rush disappears, and all of a sudden you're losing a game you have no business losing. This has to get the Packers' mind right headed forward, because this is not good enough.
These are all the things that have you worried about the Packers. They make special teams blunders. They're a young team. They're the youngest team in the NFL. Yeah, well, they're a young team that makes a bunch of bad penalties. And then Jordan Love simply cannot be trusted. Jordan Love is going to make his biggest mistakes in the biggest moments of the game. This is why I'm looking at Baker Mayfield. And I'm like, you're right. Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL when a guy like Jordan Love kind of gets in that conversation. But Jordan Love is always letting his team down in big moments and making a critical mistake. So all the talent in the world, he's so good at avoiding sacks and his DVOA and EPA per play and all these stats look so good. But when the game is on the line, Jordan Love more than not makes the bad play to hurt his team. So it's just, this is the same old crap from the Packers that gets them beat in the biggest games, and it's showing its ugly head here against the Browns, and this kind of loss is very concerning.
And eventually that youth isn't an excuse anymore. They've been the youngest team in football for like 3 to 4 years now, and they have the experience in the postseason and back-to-back seasons, and you're still getting this from the coach and the quarterback, which are the two most important parts of the team, that late in the game, you're right, and Peter's right. Like, they have these blunders too consistently for me to... I was ready to fully say, after the first 2 weeks with how good they looked, to say, like, this is the team that's going to push the Eagles in the NFC. And then this loss kind of makes me cool off on that, because I just don't trust them in these kind of moments yet. And that was brutal. But I'll say that Cleveland Browns defense is special. I think they've proved that all year, and it's kind of a shame that Myles Garrett is on this football team. I kind of wish he would have stuck to that trade request, because, man, this is one of the best defensive players I've ever seen. And Cleveland's not ready yet, but their defense certainly is. I mean, that was an incredible performance.
All-time legendary offensive tackle Joe Thomas tweeted out during Sunday's games and stuff that Myles Garrett is the most impactful non-quarterback in NFL history. Now, I don't know if I'm willing to go there with guys like Lawrence Taylor and Aaron Donald and Reggie White, for example. Like, there's a lot, but I understand that he is absolutely in the discussion, and it's unfortunate that he doesn't get more praise. But either way, I don't think the Browns are doing much of anything this year because that offense is so bad. But what an incredible win for them, and what a disappointing loss for the Packers. Now, I do got to move to a team that was much more impressive, and where we thought the Packers were a great team, and they disappoint. This team, I admit, I did not believe in, but now you kind of do got to take them serious, and it's the Indianapolis Colts who absolutely stomped the Tennessee Titans, and my guy Jake Arthur from Locked On Colts broke down a massive win.
Your Indianapolis Colts are still undefeated after a 41-20 beatdown here on the road at Nissan Stadium. It was the Colts' first road game of the year. It was their first division game of the year. And they've got 3 wins now in the AFC. And, I mean, we're only 3 weeks in, but they are building a little bit of a postseason resume so far. Things are going to get pretty difficult next week, starting with the Rams. But we're going to focus on the here and now. It was another big day for Daniel Jones, another YPA over 9, more passer rating over 100. Jonathan Taylor goes over 100 with 3 touchdowns. Probably the player of the day over on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, the front did exactly what they needed to. They disrupted Cam Ward consistently, got to him 4 times, which is, again, exactly what they needed to do. You saw a breath of fresh air with Latu getting in there, providing some pressures. Charvarius Ward getting back with some pass breakups. So this was yet again another huge team win for the Colts, offensively, defensively. Special teams, we'll see. You know, Spencer Schrader did miss a kick, so he's finally got a little bit of a blip on his record now. Rigoberto Sanchez has his first punt of the year now through the 3rd week of the season.
Yeah, the Titans should hang the banner, made the Colts punt for the first time in 2025, right next to the "we're firing Brian Callahan on Monday morning" banner. But the Colts are so impressive. I mean, Shane Steichen is just calling things perfectly for Daniel Jones. I don't mean to take away credit from Daniel Jones, who had the answers all day, but this is a very, very well-coached football team, and Jonathan Taylor leads the NFL in rushing at this point as of this recording. Daniel Jones, I believe, leads the NFL in passing yards at this recording. That offense has so much talent, so many pass catchers. I think the pass rush will ultimately be the Achilles heel beating up on a Titans offensive line is not a feather in a cap for just about anybody. But at the end of the day, with Ward back, with some of their guys getting healthy, the Colts just have a lot of talent, and if they're going to keep calling it so smart from Steichen's perspective, Daniel Jones absolutely can lead them to a division title in the AFC South.
Yeah, I think the bar is pretty low in that division, so I certainly think they're the favorite in the South right now. And you're right, they're a very well-coached team. I know a lot about Shane Steichen and his impact on a young quarterback that's trying to prove he can be the franchise guy. He had that impact on Jalen Hurts in 2022. It's what got him the job in Indy. They have a lot of weapons on that offense, but I will say, Tyler, like, they beat the Dolphins, they beat the Titans, they beat a Broncos team that I think is kind of a pretender still.
You say it, not me, because
I think Daniel Jones
cover the Titans, the Colts fans get all mad at me, you know?
And I do think Daniel Jones, like, what an awesome story it's been. I am still predicting he's going to turn back into a pumpkin at some point. Like, the schedule does get a lot tougher, so I still think of all the 3-0 teams, they're the pretender, but I'm not saying they're not a legit playoff contender. In that division, I think they certainly are. In that conference, too, which is not nearly as deep as the NFC, but I'm not buying them to be some, like, juggernaut in the conference yet. I'm not quite there based on who they've played.
Now, they have to go across the country and play the Rams next week in a 4 p.m. game. That'll be interesting. But
it's a good
after
litmus
that,
test for sure. Yeah,
they have a home game against the Raiders. They have a home game against the Cardinals. Then they go back out west and play the Chargers. Those are 2 tough games. But then they play the Titans again. I mean, they have a great chance to win. If they win one of the Rams and Chargers games on the road, they're absolutely going to beat the Raiders, the Cardinals, and then the Titans again. So they're in a great spot.
They're last year's Broncos, I think, where they're going to make the playoffs. I just, when they run into a team like Buffalo or another legit team in the AFC, I don't think they're to that tier yet. But it's been a cool story for sure.
Yeah, 100%. And, I mean, you go down the rest of their schedule, man, even after that. Yeah. At the Steelers, Falcons, at the Chiefs, who we're going to talk about in a second, Texans, Jags, Seahawks, 49ers, Jags, they don't really play anybody. So the Denver comparison is absolutely fantastic. People are going to be coming off this season saying Daniel Jones is the franchise quarterback and things are so well, and they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. Now, we'll see how the rest of the season goes, but you can kind of look at the schedule and see how this thing might play out. Be interesting to see how far the Colts can go and how serious of a team they'll be. But speaking of the Chiefs, they finally got their first win of the season, but I didn't leave that game feeling super encouraged about the Chiefs now. Today's episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. We all turn to some funny places for advice. Your barista, your barber, heck, maybe even a random stranger in the bathroom. But not everybody is the right one when it comes to real support. That's why BetterHelp is here with over 30,000 licensed therapists and more than 10 years of experience. BetterHelp helps find the right match for you, someone clinically trained and credentialed to guide you through life's challenges. For me, being matched with the right therapist is the most important part of the process, and that's why I liked it. BetterHelp has a simple questionnaire to get you started to make sure they match to the right person, and even if it's not the right fit, you can switch therapists at any time for no extra cost. As the largest online therapy provider in the world, BetterHelp can provide access to mental health professionals with a diverse variety of expertise. Find the one with BetterHelp. Our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/lockedon. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/Locked On. Today's episode is also brought to you by Upside. NFL fans, are you still paying full price for gas? Stop leaving money behind. Get real cash back every time you fill up with the free Upside app. Simply download the free Upside app in the App Store or Google Play right now and start earning cash at the pump today. You can use my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN to get an extra 25 cents back per gallon on your first fill up. You could make up to $300 a year just from buying the gas that you already need. At first, I thought it was too good to be true, but it's totally legit. Real people are getting paid just to make their daily commutes, and you can too. Plus, you can cash out anytime to your bank account, PayPal, or to an e-gift card for Amazon and other brands. Don't let this offer drive on by. Download the free Upside app now using my limited time promo code TOUCHDOWN for a limited time 25 cents per gallon bonus. That's promo code TOUCHDOWN. Offers vary by user and location. Go to upside.com for terms and conditions. All right, Louis, let's cap off today's recap of week 3 of the NFL season. We talked about some of the best and biggest games of the week. Philly and the Bucs pulling off comebacks. The Packers meltdown. The Colts proving that they might be legit, but now we got to cap off with Sunday Night Football and some of the other scores. The Kansas City Chiefs do get the win over the New York Giants, 22-9. It was an ugly game, and quite frankly, I don't leave that game any more encouraged about the Chiefs than I did before, and my guy Ryan Tracy kind of talked about the same problems.
Chiefs needed a big break, and they made big plays to get off the schneid and get their first win of the season over the New York Giants. It took a group, and it took a number of stops and starts, but they did put it together. In the end, it's not enough to feel like they're back on track, but it is a first step forward. Giants defense certainly gave them fits early, and that offensive line still has a ways to go, but they have playmakers emerging. They have guys that are trying to step up into the voids that are left by injury and suspension, and they have a chance to get even further down the road. We're going to have a ton of it all over Locked On, and especially on Locked On Chiefs, your team every day.
Now, I mean, Tyquan Thornton showing up as a wide receiver option, great. The defense obviously played better against a significantly worse offense in the New York Giants, but that offensive line did get beat up for most of the days, and Patrick Mahomes made some really bad decisions and bad plays that didn't really ultimately hurt him. Like, how many times in a row is he going to throw the ball behind him 2 yards to a wide receiver and a fumble? He's lucky that the Giants didn't just pick up that ball and run it for a touchdown. Could have been a totally different game. I could not stand Chris Collinsworth's commentary on that play. That was an incredible play. Did you miss 2 seconds ago when he threw the ball at his running back's feet behind him and almost made one of the dumbest plays of the year? Gave me flashbacks to Will Levis from last year, quite frankly. There's something wrong with the Chiefs. Yeah, they got to win. They're 1-2. They'll probably figure some things out and be a winning team, but I have no faith right now that the Chiefs are going to end up in the Super Bowl this year.
Yeah, the problem is Patrick Mahomes has to do everything for that offense to make up any sort of production. It's all on his shoulders. So like you said, he's making these Will Levis caliber plays because I think he's trying to create more than he's had to over the years until they get Worthy and Rice back. And if they all can stay healthy together, those two and Hollywood Brown, and they can protect Mahomes, then I think they'll be legit again. But like the problem right now, Tyler, is they don't have any weapons and they can't protect Mahomes. And until that's the fact of the matter, you're going to get these kind of wins. That's been the output for a couple years now. So I think that's the issue. Their defense is good. Patrick Mahomes, I still think, is good. But until they fix that, they're not going to be the caliber of team that we're used to in Kansas City.
And from the Giants' perspective, that defensive line looks awesome. I thought their defense gave them a chance to win in this game. Everybody freaked out because Russell Wilson threw for 450 yards last week against the Cowboys' putrid defense. And now he played an NFL-level defense, and he looked absolutely terrible. 2 bad interceptions, just throwing lollipops up. What I don't understand is if you're going to have packages for Jackson Dart so he can run the read option and use his mobility, why would you then have Russell Wilson run the read option? You use Jackson Dart at the 10-yard line to run 2 read options with Cam Scatterbo, and Scatterbo was awesome in this game and showed why people loved him coming out of college. But why would you take Dart out and then run a read option with Russell Wilson, who's running with combat boots on? It just didn't make any sense to me.
Just play Jackson Dart at this point. I mean, what are we doing? They're 0-3. Why delay the inevitable? You're already admitting how limited Russell Wilson is by putting Dart in the game for these packages. So just do it. I think they're at that point now where they got through this Chiefs game. I think it's time to embrace Dart. Like, there's no way he's a downgrade over what you're getting out of Russell Wilson right now. So I just think it's time.
Yeah, it doesn't really make any sense to keep this experiment going. The veteran only makes sense if it gives you a better chance to win. Like you said, they're 0-3. 2 of the games have not really been close, 21-6 and then 22-9. I agree with you. It's just time to make the move. They do play the Chargers next. But after that, they get the Saints. So maybe they want to take their lumps.
Wait one more week. Yeah, feed Russell Wilson to the Wolves one more time.
But here's the thing. After the New Orleans Saints game, they have a short week game against the Eagles.
I was going to say, their schedule is not easy this year, actually. Yeah.
Then they got to go play the Broncos, which the Broncos have regressed, but the defense is still good. Then they play the Eagles again in Philly. Then they play the 49ers. Like, you're going to get absolutely smoked in those games either. So if you want to say, like, we want to set Jackson Dart up for an advantageous matchup to get him going, it really doesn't exist from a long-term perspective. But looking at some other games on the NFL schedule, we'll quickly roll through these. Something that stood out, we had a massive blowout, the Vikings over the Bengals, 48-10. The Steelers win 21-14 over the Patriots. The Commanders blow out the Raiders, 41-24. The Panthers blow out the Falcons, 30-0. Any of those games right there stand out to you?
For me, I think I'm looking at right now how bad Atlanta looked against Carolina.
Whoa.
I was very surprised, and especially with how good their pass rush was last week, and I think a big quality win over Minnesota. I'm kind of dumbfounded of how bad they look today. So that kind of changed my perspective. I thought they were a playoff team in the conference. They were going to push Tampa Bay for that division title, but the Atlanta loss is shocking to me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not just that Carolina won, but they just thoroughly beat down the Falcons. The Falcons turned over the ball a ton, 2 interceptions from Michael Penix. Couldn't really get anything going, 18-36 on the day. And the thing is, they were kind of running the ball good. They ran for 131 yards. Some of the weapons caught passes, but they just made way too many mistakes. And boy, Carolina jumped all over them. Bryce Young didn't really even have to do all that much to make that happen. That one did stand out to me. Some other games to roll through. The Jaguars take down the Texans late in the game, 17-10. The Texans have fallen to 0-3. I think that's something that I'll be talking about this week on the show when we have more time. The Chargers pull it out against the Broncos, 23-20. The Broncos did give a better effort after going down early. The Seahawks just throttle the New Orleans Saints, 44-13, with an excellent special teams performance in that one. The Bears, Caleb Williams jumps all over the Cowboys, 31-14, and then the 49ers. Again, I'm going to pick out this one. The Cardinals, I played a clip from my guy Alex Clancy from Locked On Cardinals last week that said the Cardinals just simply cannot close games. In both their games, they were winning. They let the Saints back in. They let the Panthers back in. Neither of those teams are juggernauts or anything. And then it finally bit them here. The Cardinals were up in this game. They get a safety to go up by 2, and they simply cannot close out the game, give the ball back to the 49ers. And I hate to do this, but Kyle Shanahan is the quarterback in San Francisco. paying Brock Purdy all that money when Mac Jones looks just as good as Brock Purdy in that offense, it just doesn't make any sense. But San Francisco, with all of these injuries, man, still found a way to go to 3-0. Kyle Shanahan is an absolute wizard.
They're legit. I don't think you want to see this team when they make the playoffs inevitably, because their schedule does not get a lot tougher, and they're playing like this right now. That defense is incredible, and they're going to get healthy at some point. San Francisco looks dangerous in the NFC.
Yeah, and one thing we do got to keep our eye on, though, Nick Bosa did injure his knee. Now, the initial reporting out of San Francisco is that it doesn't feel like structurally, doesn't feel like an ACL tear, but, they're being cautiously optimistic about that going forward. I got to bring up the Texans. 0-3, offensive line still terrible. Play calling, Nick Haley, not an improvement over Bobby Slowick. If the Texans, they're going to get a win this week because they play the Titans, so the Texans will get on the board. But if they don't make the playoffs, man, people are going to start pointing fingers. People are going to start asking questions. C.J. Stroud looks terrible, looks lost. I don't even know what to say about the Texans at this point. What a disappointment to start the year.
Yeah, it's just another example of a really bad system and supporting roster hurting the development of a quarterback that has playoff wins in back-to-back years, had an incredible rookie season. So Houston looking brutal right now. And one other game, Tyler, for me, Chargers, Broncos, Justin Herbert, early MVP favorite right now.
The favorite right now.
3-0.
Sure.
I think he might be the guy.
Yeah, absolutely the MVP favorite right now. I totally agree with you. And that's something that Justin Herbert needs to kind of cement who he is. Because there's, some people out there who still don't believe in him, but he's showing just give me a little bit and I'll do a lot. And that is the measure of a great quarterback. But we got a big-time Monday Night Football game between the Lions and the Ravens. Madman's moneymaker heads into the Monday night game at 2-2. Come on, Lions, 5.5. I need you to cover.
Let's go.
Need a winning week here. But I'll be here tomorrow night with my guy Lauren Cox to break all that down. I am your host, the Madman Tyler Rowland, for my co-host, the Legacy Louis DiBiase, as we tell you every episode. Thanks for tuning in, and stay safe out there.